Good evening. Welcome to a midnight special. Oh, my lipstick's not survived very well, has it? Ugh. How are you all? I hope you're all well. You're all chatting their Billy millions in the chatty nonsense. I hope all's good. I'm shattered. It's been a heck of a day. We have been decorating our house, just sorting it out from moving in, and finally got round to doing the paint that we meant to do when we moved in, and we didn't. So I've got paint all over me. And then popped out to do a gig, and then I had to do the big weekly food shop. And so I thought, I'll do it after the gig. Fine. Except that the worst weather in the world. Oh my God, driving home. It was like, sometimes when you're watching like a cheap film or a bad action film and it's raining in the film. So someone's clearly just throwing buckets of water over a car that's jiggling about. That's what it was like driving home. It was crazy. It was mad. I've never been so glad to live at the top of a hill. So I sort of went into Asda, did the big shop, and then I came out and I was so soaking wet just from moving the stuff from the trolley into the car. My clothes were absolutely drenched. I just had to walk in the house and get changed. But it was nice to get home. And then I started writing this chapter at 11:10. So this is the latest I've ever cut it in terms of getting the chapter written. But the hall is now a lovely white, and I've done blue on the cupboards, and it's looking good. And yes, I think I've achieved everything I was meant to achieve today. I went to Kent and did the stuff. It's when you just have a week where you're trying to cram a little bit too much in. But I hope you guys are all well. Lady Frag, you've got dreadful weather too. Yeah, was there a storm? I feel like there was a storm coming. It feels like a storm, or the tail end of a storm. I don't know. But very glad to be indoors. Little Mackie is not impressed with going outside today. She's so cute though. When I came in the front door and she was wagging her tail so hard that her whole bum's moving from side to side. Just, ooh, I love her. She's been a right sweetie. I took her to a gig with me yesterday. So I had a lovely gig in Bracknell. And I took her with me, and she was very well behaved in the green room, and all the other comedians seemed to absolutely love her company, of course. I can't quite bring myself to take her on stage with me because she will definitely upstage me, and that is time for me. So she's not having my limelight. But I do absolutely adore her, and she's going to meet my parents tomorrow, which is very nice. My dad's met her, but my mother is coming to stay as well. So yes, she will meet. My mum's referring to her as grandpup, which is very sweet. I think suggests she's given up on me ever getting around to having children. She's got actual human grandchildren, but I think possibly she thinks the dog might be her only chance of getting one from me and Tom. We should have a very nice day tomorrow. So I've got a lot of housework to do in the morning. And if anyone has any tips for how to sort of achieve a state of having vacuumed without a vacuum cleaner, oh, that would be lovely, because my vacuum cleaner has died and I need to take some of the flex off and get a new plug and sort of move it up, if you know what I mean. But I don't have any wire strippers or a new plug yet. I meant to get them this week and I just didn't. So I need to kind of try and vacuum before Mum gets here tomorrow, but I don't know how to do that without a vacuum. Like, you can't really sweep a carpet, can you? I might have to. I know what I need is one of those like suit cleaners. Just like to go painstakingly along. Yeah, Mystic, no sucking, and I haven't looked back at the live comments from yesterday, but you were being rude, as I understand it. You absolute rudies. Dustpan and brush will get the worst off. Yeah, I mean it will, except that just Mackie's favourite thing is to find receipts or bits of moss or just leaves, and then she just chews them up, and she's so weird about her food. Like, we're really like begging her to eat more, and she does this thing where she runs up to her food bowl, she takes a mouthful of it, and then she runs away with it as if we're going to tell her off or take it away from her, and then she takes it in the lounge to eat it. So and when I've got the vacuum cleaner, that's fine. I can sort it out. But every now and again, there's gobbets of food everywhere because my weirdo dog won't just stand at a bowl and eat like a normal dog. I swear she's learned it from the cat. Like, we don't have a cat, but my brother's cat. I think she's learned this whole like taking mouthfuls of it and eating it somewhere else. But if any of the dry biscuit hasn't soaked up water, she takes one and she takes it into the lounge and she throws it around the lounge, playing with it and catching it. Ugh. Neil Beattie, didn't there used to be a device called a carpet sweeper, which was like a manual hoover? Maybe. Is that the thing that Eddie Izzard talks about? The hodda-da-da-da-da, we will whisk the dust. That kind of a thing, I think. Yeah, so those are my tales. Tom and I have listened to an awful lot of Adam and Joe this week because we had a long drive to do together, and we have been painting together all day. So we've listened to a lot of the Adam and Joe podcast, and I highly recommend it if you want some escapism. Go back to Happy People in about 2011. Wonderful. So we should do the chapter because I'm very tired. Chapter 34. Oh, okay. So you chose the streets. We're taking it to the streets. So, chapter 34. The city was too quiet. Vanweer had been expecting relative peace. She had chosen to sneak the 1st Battalion back in significantly before first beats so that there wouldn't be any Tingians out in the streets. This was even quieter than she had expected, though, although it was hard to put one of her many fingers on exactly why. Silence was silence, wasn't it? Well, not if you were seasoned in military and treachery, not if you were used to reading every pause and silence in a conversation and learning how to turn them to your advantage. Vanweer was trained in exactly that. Yes, Catherine, I'm just throwing in the odd reference to you guys having given my characters a third arm for some reason. Fine, I'll go with it. A lifetime of climbing and manipulating had given her instincts beyond most Tingians' understanding. The 1st Battalion's boots crunched gently on the hardened, flattened pathways through the city. The centre of the city was laid out in obvious straight lines that crisscrossed each other in perfect order, making navigation easy and traffic unlikely on the small carts Tingians used when they couldn't travel on foot. Vanweer tried to listen beyond the boots, tried to work out what it was that was leaving her unsettled. She didn't like feeling ill at ease in her own city. She had worked too hard to run it to feel like she could be in danger here. The boots crunched, the air lay gently, faint snores could be heard from residential homes. Everything was as it should be. And yet... Vanweer held up a hand at the front of the column and they stopped in unison. She allowed herself a grin at the formidable obedience. Their prisoners were bound and gagged and being carried aloft by the 1st so that they couldn't even stamp their feet in protest and attract the attention of the civilians. Not that it would have mattered if they had, Vanweer grinned. She would simply explain that they were Topsiders, evil Topsiders, coming below to infiltrate the city now that they had finally come to their senses and realised that life above was too hard. Vanweer paused, sensing the air, listening for anything that might explain her sense of unease. There was nothing. She signalled the 1st Battalion to proceed with a small wave of her hand, and they began to trot forward again. They were heading back to Vanweer's office. Her message should have got back to Talaglashi by now, and with any luck they were already plunging headlong down below ground to retrieve their stolen allies. When they came below, Vanweer would be ready, and the stone would be returned. She thought of the stones she had already retrieved, stored as they were deep, deep below the city in the coldest mud. One by one she had spirited them away, always using a different captain, a different troop, and always carefully disposing of the captains after they had completed their tasks. Then it was no trouble at all to pretend the stones hadn't been what they needed after all and have them swiftly removed to her secret storage facility. She didn't know how exactly to make them do what she wanted, but she could sense their power. She had heard the stories and seen the might of the Topsiders, and the stones were connected. They pulsed with life, with enthusiasm for power. Vanweer wanted them. Once she had them all safely stowed, it wouldn't matter if it took her entire lifetime to work them out. They would be hers. She could take her time, safe in the knowledge that no Tingian under the earth knew she had them, and without the stones anywhere else, there was barely a chance anyone else could be powerful enough to take them from her. They were nearing her office now, and she began to relax slightly as the usual guards nodded their hellos to her. In and out before most of the city even knew she had gone. Oh, what was Vanweer's accent? Dutch. In the holding shells, Vanweer nodded curtly to the 1st Battalion captain. It's a while since I've had to do that one. Who understood her instruction perfectly despite the accent, and led the line of soldiers still carrying their captives around the side of the building and towards the training door. Vanweer continued along the silent street towards the front of the building and the main door. As she neared it, she saw a lone figure outside. Vanweer squinted, wishing her eyes were a few ages earlier than they were. She couldn't make it out, but a sigh of disgust escaped her lips as she noticed the figure was hopping from foot to foot nervously and could therefore only be Mavis. Vanweer straightened herself, ready to reduce her mini-assistant to tears with a scathing rebuke for being out before first beats and wasting time dancing about in the streets when there was work to be done. Why was Mavis in the street? Vanweer asked herself. Suddenly, the alarms clamoring in her nerves had a focal point. This wasn't right. Vanweer looked about her from left to right, and suddenly there was a shout. Now! Soldiers burst out of doors in front of her to her left and right, but, she realised with lightning speed, she had obviously begun to look suspicious slightly too early for the trap laid for her, and she wasn't surrounded. Soldiers were pouring onto the street ahead of her, and she turned and fled, slipping down a street to the right and diving left and right on subsequent turns, leaving no indication for her pursuers where she was going. Mavis had turned, Vanweer thought angrily, imagining squashing the impudent Tingian's skull beneath her boot. There would be hell to pay for her insubordination, Vanweer swore. She ran hard and purposefully, aiming for the outskirts of the city where the streets became twistier and windier, and she had more chance of finding an alleyway or a rat run to slip down and hide. She could hear booted footsteps behind her, and she cursed her own arrogance at letting the 1st Battalion leave her side before she knew she was entirely safe. She looked up, trying to take in her surroundings, and then realised she was on the street from where she had personally taken custody of Skylawn's family. Perfect, she thought, through a burning breath. She would hide in their house, as they weren't using it. Drama, drama, drama. This story is all about the drama. She does have anger issues. I thought you wouldn't like that. Yeah. Squashing her head like a bee. Yeah. So the trap was sprung a little too early, and Vanweer has escaped. There were options where there would be a battle, but no. Yes, I did write 40 minutes. I'm getting quite quick at these now when I have to. It's obviously more fun when I've got a bit more time, but because I sort of have already pre-planned what's going to happen, I don't have to sit here twisting the plot out in my head. So, like, depending on which one wins the vote, I know what happens in the chapter, and then I just get to sort of colour it in. I love writing. I really love writing. I've really been mulling on my novel, the one that will be released 2022, and it's really sort of starting to develop in my head. I'm really looking forward to having a good week off to write on it. I love writing. I really love it. It's my fave. So look at this lovely book that my publisher sent me to help me with writing my new book. Isn't that sweet? They're just the loveliest. And there's a little note. Here's an entirely no pressure gift, which is roughly translates to, please write the fucking book we paid you for. Right, so I'd better give you your options for tomorrow. You can decide how Aysmar and Mavis react to having lost Vanweer. You can weigh up the pros and cons. I look forward to a few essays from some of you. And then, like, Art World, always just like a one-word answer compared to the essays. It's always really funny. So your choices, you can decide, you can see what you think. I haven't yet decided what the outcomes of these will be. I might just see whether they work or not. Thanks, Rich, Rich said, for that well-written and enjoyed a chapter. Thank you very much. So do Aysmar and Mavis seal off the city? Do they try and shut it down? Do they just try and keep Vanweer in? Do they immediately go above ground? Do they just go up and try and join with the Topsiders? Well, I don't know. Do they search the houses for Vanweer? Do they do that? Or do they send a messenger up to the Topsiders but stay at the office? Those are your 4 options. I'm going to decide outcomes for them as you vote, and I will be writing before 2 p.m. tomorrow. So if you could vote tonight, as soon as the video goes up, or vote first thing in the morning, that would be really great, because I'd like to get it written before my mother and father arrive, and then I can, and then, yes, that would be great. So, Georgina says, you keep writing, sorts my Christmas presents for years to come. Oh yeah, well, I have every intention of doing some sort of nonsense for years to come. I've had good breakthrough with the TV show that I'm working on too, so fingers crossed that goes somewhere, because if we made that, you could watch something. That would be so cool. Yes, get voting, and I will see you at 10 p.m. tomorrow, which will actually be 11 p.m, but it'll be 10 p.m, won't it, because of time being weird. So I'll see you 10 p.m. GMT, not BST, tomorrow. Have a lovely weekend, and thanks for staying up to catch this. Goodbye.